Okay. All right, I'm going to call to order the Geauga County ADP Board meeting. It is a special meeting, Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. It is 1:03 p.m. As this is a special meeting, we will discuss the agenda items that are on here and go from there. Number one is the approval of the ADP meeting minutes from March 14th, 2023. Those were provided in advance.
I'll make that motion.
We have a
Second.
motion. There's a second. Or actually, is there any discussion on the minutes? Nope. All right, seeing that there is no discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes stand approved. Number two is the equipment list for March of 2023. Normally, we provide the equipment lists in 2 to 3 month increments, but seeing as we just had a meeting, Pam is sort of on top of all this stuff, and we're trying to get those out there as soon as possible, so that's why it's only a single month. So we'll look for a motion to approve the equipment list from March of 2023.
So,
First, is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the equipment list from March of 23? Seeing that there is no discussion, call for a vote. All in favor of approving the equipment list from March of 2023?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The equipment list stands approved. Number three is the approval of the ADP purchases list for March of 23. So again, we'll look for a motion for approval of the purchases list.
So moved.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a second, still has to beat the treasurer on that one. Any discussion on the purchases list? Seeing that there is no discussion, we'll look for a vote on the approval of the purchases list from March of 2023.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Purchases list stands approved. Number four is the approval of the Geauga County Engineers Precision Laser and Instruments Incorporated. There are two different approval requests here. I'll give a brief overview and then turn it over to the engineer, but one is for, I believe, a total station, and then the other is for handheld devices. So I think what I'd like to do is look for a motion in a second and then have discussion on that. So we'll look for a motion.
You want separate motions? Because there's one for 42,000 and some change and one for 39,000.
So we'll look for a motion for the total station first.
Which is the 42,000 and change, right?
Is that correct, Joe? No?
The 39.
The 39?
694, yeah.
I'll also move.
So we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second, so we'll look for quick discussion on the total station.
Yeah, it's just for reference, it's updated our equipment, it's a newer model. It's just, our surveyors use it every day. Just keeping up with the technology.
So is that, just quickly, is that on the internet, or is that on the cloud, or how does that interact with the county network at all?
It does, and that the data, when we download it, does come
Okay.
through the system.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's, the unit itself is autonomous, but not once you bring the data.
Yeah. And that's like a laser
Yeah,
survey?
it's
Yeah.
you're,
Okay.
what you'd see any surveyor using your typical
Okay.
gun. It's robotic, so you can use one person instead of having to count on a second guy on the
Good.
crew. So we're
Okay. And then,
and the guns don't call instead.
Yeah.
So it's really good.
so the two items, there's one for 42 and one for 39. Are they related to each other?
They
or
are
does-
not related.
They're not,
They're not
okay.
related.
Yeah, this one's for 39,694.11.
Okay. Very good, that's all I got.
Call the vote, Frank?
Any other discussion on those items? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. I'll look for a vote on the Precision Laser and Instruments Incorporated total station portion of that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion stands approved. The second one on there with the company is the handheld devices. And I'm looking at that one being $42,753.
So
we'll
moved.
we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, so we'll look for discussion on that. This is the handheld devices.
Yeah, these are handheld GPS devices. They're really accurate, but they're not a gun like the total station that's down to your millimeter, if you will. But these are good for in construction. We're able to check the contractor's work as he's moving instead of getting in fights about redoing stuff. It's turned out, we had one last year and it worked out great in the field. We had wonderful feedback from our engineers, and it does keep the discussion on who's right and who's wrong out in the field really good. So they took the trade-in on the old one back, which was great. They gave us $4,000 on that, and then we're picking up 5, so each of our staff engineers out in the field will be able to use it.
Are these going to upload to RealLink? Is that the goal? You'll put a layer eventually and be
Yeah,
able to map
they
it?
will, and we would like that. What we're doing is we're using them kind of live as the construction's changing, so we're not tying in, like if you would, monuments and stuff, stuff that's fixed in time. It's actually, as maybe they're doing the earthwork or whatever, how much are they gonna get paid for what they did this week? Well, we shoot it real quick in a matter of minutes and create a surface and interpolate between that and the finished surface. So yeah, would we upload this? This is kind of, the data that comes out of this is kind of for our temporary use. But when you're talking about the other gun we talked about a minute ago, yes, we look to put layers of the monument, reference monuments and pins and so forth, tying in subdivisions to the real world. That would be.
Okay, any other discussion on the handheld devices portion of that? Seeing that there isn't, and we have a motion and a second, I'll call for a vote here. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion stands approved.
Thank you.
Number 5, I think it would be prudent to do the same thing so we can have discussion on it, but maybe just very briefly, if the sheriff is willing to give us an overview before the discussion, just on where we've come with the cameras and where we are now. We've worked very closely together on this with the chief, and it's a very good project. It's definitely
Nothing
time.
but brief. This is all the cameras in the building, inside and out, that haven't been replaced since the building was built. They're almost 20 years old. There's new technology, and it's recording equipment also, so that we can maintain that.
Yeah, it's access cameras, which is fantastic. It's a good piece. Okay, thank you for the presentation. Brief as though it needed to be. That was it. So we'll look for a motion and a second, and then have discussion on that.
So moved.
Second.
Based on the stirring testimony.
We have a motion and a second. Questions, comments, discussion on the sheriff's IPS jail?
These are the same brands we're using here, right?
The
Some of them.
Some of them, yes.
Got it.
Axis is some of the best cameras that we work with in the county. They're the ones that are about almost 100% of those on the square in the annex area are Axis. Any other discussion? Okay. We have a motion and a second, so we'll call for a vote on that. All in favor of approving the sheriff's IPS jail camera project, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion stands approved. Number 6 is approval for the transit safety vision bus cameras, and I'll ask, Joanne is here, which is great, to do just the same quick sort of overview presentation that the sheriff did, just the vision cameras and how they're going to be used.
Yeah, Safety Vision is a company that's been through lots of trainings all over Ohio. The cameras are currently, we have some in the bus currently, but they're 10+ years old and they're slowly dying. It's for the security of the passengers as well as our drivers. At the end of this is out front, back at the main part of the bus, out the passenger door, and out the lift door, as well as rear backup cameras. So we would just like to replace them all, so we've got a grant to replace them.
Yeah, these are, this is a good product and obviously something that protects your drivers, protects your entity, but also protects people on there. Yeah, these look really good, and it was a very detailed project. So I'll look for a motion and a second on that. Is there a motion to approve the transit safety vision bus
Make a
cameras?
motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All right, is there discussion on that? All right, seeing that there's no discussion on those cameras, I will look for a vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion stands approved. Number 7 is the approval of the BOCC operation of a key card system purchased by the BOCC for security at the new Geauga County office building. So we have a letter on this one. I don't know if somebody from the BOCC wants to do likewise and give an overall presentation of that before we get to motion and discussion. Jerry?
Thank you. So this is just the key card system for this building. It's put in with the construction of the building. It's been, it was, when it was put in, the main component of it was put in the IT closet. There's been some issues back and forth with that. What we're proposing is to take that section, the portion, the control portion out of the IT closet, putting it in another secure room within the building, and then operate the doors so that the commissioners can operate the system.
What about doors going to individual office holders?
For ADP, as we've discussed before, you guys would have your own, be able to put in your own system into, for a cloud-based system. Other than that, had some discussions with the other entities that aren't under the commissioner's hiring authority, and they seem to be okay with the commissioners having the control of that, but they can just let us know when there's an employee who left or came back, or a new employee, we have control of it.
So are they all represented here? I mean, Adam, you're here for the health department, is that your understanding?
It was phrased similar to Jerry, just Mr. Morgan just mentioned that the key card system would allow us to have access to it. I don't know of any other options, not saying we want or don't want that option, but that's how I believe it. For me specifically, I would like to have control, as I mentioned to Mr. Morgan, just because as people come and go, it is hard sometimes to go to maintenance, where he's understaffed, and they get key cards approved. And I also like to allocate them to certain areas. I don't necessarily need everyone getting access to our vital stats, as an example. That should be isolated to only a certain number of staff. And right now, every card goes to every room inside the health department, which is not ideal. It's just default from my understanding right now. So more control would help, yes.
Yeah, and just to add some input to it, I spoke to Intertech, is the company that we contracted with that installed those, and it's kind of been on hold waiting for us to give them direction on how to finish. But what they've told us is they can compartmentalize this thing and set this thing up in any which way is needed. So I agree that everybody, like the health offices, should be autonomous and have their control over everything that goes on inside their square footage there, which doors they want to eliminate or control. And they said they have no problem being able to do that, and that that each individual office will have the control over that. So, but they've been kind of on hold and standby, waiting for direction.
Michelle, the Board of Elections is okay with it?
We've requested 2 doors to have hard locks because we're not okay with the key cards on those, but the rest we're all right with.
So you're okay with the commissioners controlling your door access?
No, we want access to
Actually,
our
I
own doors.
misspoke on that. Board of Elections will have their own cloud-based system.
Okay, Sheila?
Well, because there is an electrical panel and BMV servers, so there's county equipment and BMV servers in my area, I have to be able to allow other individuals access. There's only one room which has my title stock, which if it is an option to have a key, I would prefer that. The rest of the area, certain individuals have to have access to, so. Just the way the building was designed.
I guess just to clarify, my understanding was it was in like a silo type of thing, so each entity had, it wasn't that the commissioners under control, it was, they were siloed.
That's right.
It was my understanding,
Yeah.
because getting keys is sometimes hard to do, because obviously there's not a ton of maintenance people on staff. I think Kevin's on his way out too, so it makes it tough sometimes to get, because they're just short staffed. My understanding was it was siloed though.
That's right.
Commissioner Lennon, you had mentioned that Intertech, you discussed with them, but then they placed on hold. It does seem that they did a lot of work in that closet at one point. Do we know what they did do?
I don't know exactly, I know they were, you know, prior to that, they were pulling some wires, and I think that was the issue, was they were, you know, in ADP's closet, right, which is not ideal, that you having to come and go, because you want to keep it secure there. So the idea was they were able to, because there are, I guess those wires are hardwired throughout the building to each door, so they can get that out of that IT closet, and they were gonna pull those wires out of the IT closet and then go to a separate area, so it's disconnected and siloed from any ADP equipment.
Is that what they've already done then? So
No, I don't think so. I don't know technically. I don't know, Jerry, maybe you can add
There was
something.
miscommunication going down the line, because Intertech right now is not contracted directly with the county. They're contracted with Independence,
Right.
who's doing the building. When we were having discussions about that, we had asked Intertech to give us a quote on what it would cost to take that server or whatever into another area. They came in somehow down to the guy who was out here, going through NV5 to Independence to Intertech, but the guy who was actually out here. He started pulling wires rather than just trying to figure out what would happen or what would need to happen. So I don't know whether he needed to pull wires out, was trying to figure out which wires went where or what he was doing with that. But that was, they actually started to get the move going, and
Yeah.
they were just asked to give us a quote on what the cost would be.
Okay, I think they're a little further than it started. Andy, you kind of have an idea. Is that all that yellow cabling that's pulled and not ended anywhere? In every closet? Yeah.
And it's from the third floor all the way into the basement too. There's all,
Yeah.
they've done quite a bit of
I mean,
work.
they were drilling holes between the floors, right?
Probably between rooms.
Between the rooms,
floors
walls,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know, again, we were, and I think it still stands for each elected official's office and each, not under the commissioner's hiring authority, that if they want to go the route of exploring getting key card systems like ADP does, and it did in the auditor's office and the prosecutor's office, that, obviously they can submit that through ADP, and obviously the commissioners would help fund that if that's something that they want to do, or if they just want to remain under hard lock and key, that's fine too, but that's their decision.
That's essentially what you're doing, right, Celesta? At your location?
I haven't done anything completely yet. I had gotten some codes that were turned in, and nothing's been done, but.
And I believe the treasurer is doing that as well.
Adam, do you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, I just asked a question, I guess, and I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings on either side of where this goes, but when we get new hires, we fill out the paperwork for new hires, most of the ADPs, we fill out the paperwork too. I mean, if the commissioners maybe don't want, or maybe they do want the access, I don't know who wants to access the key cards. It would be easier if we just did like one form to one area and got like everything, like gatekeepers, emails, phones, computers. It'd be nice just to do like one form for one place.
Yeah, and I think you have the ability, if, we can silo that, so you be controlling it, or if you want to have, say, ADP run it for you, you can do that too.
Yeah, because I mean, I just don't want the liability of having them. It's easier to say, hey, when we request one in paper, if you guys can give them to us, but most of the requests that we make go through ADP anyways for almost everything.
That's
Some rare
fine.
exceptions.
That's fine.
It's just a question of myself. I don't know the reason of why or why not. It makes it a little bit easier if all the IT was like one form.
So do we need to, can we reread the phrasing of this motion? Because I
I
want to
can
make
read
sure.
the motion language.
Could you read it?
Approval of BOCC operation of a key card system purchased by the BOCC for security at the new Geauga County office building.
Do we want to specify what Tim just said?
I have a question. When this is all said and done and everybody's got their own thing, is there gonna be like a MasterCard
Yes.
that the deputy can get into any place if there's an emergency, or the fire department?
Yeah, that would be, that would be a requirement, I think. There has to be a master key that can be provided to the sheriff's emergency services or whatever it be, that can access any room, just in case, whether it's fire. And that would be up to the individual offices, whether it's title or whoever it is, to provide that.
Oh, we talked about a Knox box.
Yeah, Knox box, yeah.
I thought there was one outside in that box.
There is.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we were told.
And this only applies to this building, right?
Yeah,
That's what the motion
Yeah,
language
this
Motion
is for the
language.
commissioners.
Well, here's the only problem with that, is that we have a deputy here that can't access that Knox box, only the fire department can. So if there's a problem in one of the offices, how's he gonna get in there to solve it?
Well, he would, your deputy's only here during work time, right? Well, there's always employees here during work time.
Yeah, but if they're tied up fighting or something, they can't let you in, you know?
Tied up fighting. I mean,
It's gonna be pretty bad if he's banging on the door trying to get in.
yeah. I mean, how are they getting in now? Does he have keys to everybody's office?
He's got a master.
But there's some of these doors, the masters are different.
Well, maybe closets and offices, but, you know, you can get into the majority of the building with that one card. It's programmed to do that.
Yeah, I mean, these are all gonna be compatible systems. I would, you know,
I just wanted to make sure.
they can all be programmed.
I would like to add something. I would feel a little bit better if I had a little more control over who has access, because I don't know if like somebody from BMV leaves or somebody from maintenance leaves, who that card goes to so that they can access their equipment that's in my office. So I don't know if that's possible to separate so that I could actually have a little more visual and control.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know who's coming and going.
Yeah, you'll be the director of it, and you'll be the one authorizing who has access to what.
Okay.
It's your decision.
Okay, thank you.
Just one more thing, just to clarify, this isn't cloud-based then?
Well, that was my next question. So does this mean that, so we don't have the technology plan for this then, and obviously there's some confusion as to what Intertech has or has not done. I understand that. Are they using the existing on-premises server that they were going to just use for the initial programming? Will that stay here, reside, and then run the system, or is the whole thing being migrated to a hosted product?
No, it would be utilizing what was already here. So, except for, I think, what the discussion had been, ADP, you guys were gonna use a cloud system, that you would have yours. If anybody else has their own, they can use a cloud system too.
And they
So
can,
the problem with that, I mean, you had that same exact circuitry at the square, which serviced the second floor, the third floor of the courthouse annex. And because it was under, I mean, it was just not being maintained. It went into free fall, right? Because it's a physical device.
yes.
And the advantage of the cloud is, you know, you've got non-technical people servicing a piece of hardware that they don't really know how to upgrade and update, and they didn't do it. And consequently, the system, we discovered that they were taking keys from people who were leaving and throwing them in a drawer, and then when a new person started, they would just take that key and give it to the new person,
Yeah.
which
And
completely
we're-
violates.
Obviously, we're gonna rethink that, you know, and this is a new building, this isn't up on the square, and this is a new system. This is coming underneath the commissioner's office. It's not gonna be maintenance. I know that everyone likes to keep continuing to throw maintenance under the bus on that, but this is gonna be controlled by the commissioner's office, more of a HR component, I believe. Obviously, if we have technical IT issues, we will come to ADP for assistance for it, you know.
But I guess what I'm saying, Tim, is, you know, we've been on a mission, the board as a whole, to get rid of under-roof servers and under-roof systems.
And we still got a lot of them, you know. know.
Well, yeah, but now we're adding, I mean,
Yeah.
we're adding to the number rather than subtracting from the number.
Right.
So all I'm saying is, that is gonna be an additional resource requirement that you're gonna have to consider going
Sure.
forward. And if it's not maintained and it can no longer be upgraded at some point in time,
Right.
it's,
And that's what Intertech is gonna be, we've discussed with them as being our contract, to help make sure that thing continually is maintained and updated, whether it's an annual basis or if there's upgrades or what it be, so.
but you got that same, sure, you got the same one servicing the remainder of downtown, right? And, I mean, that's not, it's the same issue. It's not able to be functionally upgraded, it's,
What, the new system we just bought?
The old system.
Oh, the old system.
Galaxy system.
Yeah,
The
and we
Galaxy.
can discuss, if that's what, we can discuss upgrading that as well. And that
Yeah.
can go to the cloud, obviously, or a server, whichever the decision is, but.
yeah, I mean, the only issue I have with the system itself and the configuration is that in January, before we all moved into the building, ADP specified a cloud-based system. And then it came in as a non-cloud-based system.
Right.
So here we are, 18 months later,
Right.
because this
And
was
I
a year
think
ago
for
last
today-
January.
For today's purposes, with it not being a cloud-based, that it's a self-contained unit that doesn't use the internet, it's not touching the county's network, we're requesting being able to move it out of the IT closets, and so it's not interfering with ADP.
I think it does use the internet.
Yeah, it does touch.
It can't be a standalone. Tim, otherwise, how do you silo it? It's got to be internet-based.
I don't know, is it internet-based? I thought it was just run through.
Every key card system the reason we found the issue at
Yeah.
the Square is because it is on the internet. And it was
But
a version,
That's a different system.
well, it's the same it's the same technology.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
not
Well,
unique.
I think we don't know right now, so we don't
Yeah.
know what Intertech pulled and if they're creating an isolated system. I don't know. Andy, do you have any? We don't know what they did,
Yeah,
right?
The wire they pulled is to make extensions of the current
Hardware.
wiring. So the doors go back to the closet, and now from that closet, they're gonna jump to another closet.
Right.
Which means it still goes through our switching infrastructure and all of that.
Not the switching infrastructure.
What's it go? Does it connect to its own?
Yeah, it's got its own wiring.
It's self-contained.
So the yellow cables don't touch the network.
Yeah, it's not.
The yellow cables don't, but does the
The
device,
server does.
the server does touch
Yeah,
the
the
network.
Okay.
And the yellow cables, it's like a fire system. It's enclosed in the building.
Yeah, the technical term is a banana cable.
Yep. Thank you for that. I'm sure everybody's going to Google banana cable now.
Good.
Banana, did you say banana?
Okay, so what do we have in terms of endpoint on that server right now?
I'm not 100% on there. We might have CrowdStrike on it, but it's been some time since we've even looked at that machine.
I mean, the last thing I'd like to see is a hack on the building security system. I mean, and those are vulnerable. If they're hanging on the internet, they're vulnerable.
Yeah, there's no way around. I mean, the server is going to have to be networked in some way if you want, health in different departments to be able to access, otherwise they're all going to have to go to the same computer, in a closet somewhere to be able to make changes. So if they're making it from the computer in their office, then it's on the network in some way, right? And you have to take into account that servers are not maintained the same way as workstations. Updating is different on them, rebooting them is different on them, so you have to know how to maintain and update that server, what type of security to put on it. Things you can't just leave certain things open on a server, which by default they are, so you have to know how to manage it properly.
I mean, I would just like Intertech to conform to our security
Okay.
protocols.
Okay.
Make sure they use long passwords, multi-factor
So
authentication.
since this has kind of been put on the shelf for a while, would it be appropriate for me or us, the commissioner's office, to contact Intertech?
Yes.
And then have them maybe get in touch with Frank or whoever, yourself, and then they can take our wants and needs and put that into a concise form, and then we can, have them implement that for us.
Well, I'd be curious as to what they're building now with it. I think if they just show us a network diagram and then the map of how that works here,
Okay.
and then their security protocol, We just need a plan.
Okay.
So like when we approve this stuff, we have these technology documents. So the engineer submitted this total station thing, it goes through, it explains it all. If they provide us that, then I think that we have less questions
Okay.
in this meeting. I think that's what we need before,
Okay.
I think before we can make any approvals on that, we need to know what that infrastructure looks like and how that does touch on what we have here. Just in terms of doing due diligence, I think that's important. So we call the network diagram, that's not really what it is. It does involve networking, but it involves the server infrastructure and then what is on that server in terms of maintenance. So it would need our endpoint protection, it would need,
I thought, maybe I'm missing something. I thought that's what this meeting was for. I thought the meeting was to get all that data.
I don't disagree, but I don't have the data.
Okay. I mean, Jerry, you sent the letter, and it says, that's what this meeting was going to do, right? It was going to provide presentation of the proposed item you want us to vote on.
It was to discuss the moving, getting the system out of the IT closet and being a separate system for just the building.
Okay. So where are we at with the motion? Are we, how do we make a motion with something we don't have? Tim, what are you proposing? That we table it?
Yeah, we can table it. I think, like I just said, I think, and I apologize, that was kind of my idea too, was to get the way I was kind of looking at this was to begin the process of getting the stuff out of the IT closet, but I understand the concern you're saying now. So probably it's prudent to get with Intertech and get that information, the network diagram and all that stuff put together, and then review it, and then maybe come back, we can circle back with a proper motion, including, like I said, because there's more than just the commissioners. I mean, obviously there's the outdoor, there's the exterior doors, the commissioners, but then the internals with all the different offices, and just so everyone's clear as to what kind of product they're gonna get at the end, okay?
Yeah, to put it in words that Jerry used, it's attend the next ADP meeting to make full and complete presentation of the BOCC's proposal to the members. I think that's all we're looking for. We're not asking for more than that. Full and complete, I would assume, would be the vendor that's proposing whatever technology you want to deploy. I think it sounds like, Adam has a definition of siloed, Sheila has a definition of siloed. I think we need to get that from the vendor, right? What is the vendor, when we say it should be siloed, what does that mean to the vendor? Does it mean you can log in, or you go tell somebody who logs in for you? Because there's a difference between that. And if in Adam's case, he wants it siloed, but he wants somebody else to control it, then that could be a problem for Intertech. Because if it's in another facility or secure area that ADP doesn't have control over, and he wants a one-stop shop, now we got a second issue. Maybe we should spin you off as a silo under, if ADP has a web-based solution.
That's what I was, yeah.
So I
That's
just,
fine, and that's fine too.
but we should get to the bottom of what everybody wants and make it happen. Otherwise,
When this was first discussed, at least that I recall with us, the other thing was it was supposed to have like an online portal of some sort, like on your phone or whatever.
You could turn on, open and close doors.
You can immediately go on.
Yep.
So there was discussion of internet-based or not. But my understanding was we would have like access almost from a phone, then we could disconnect someone's card on the spot, like a Saturday if we had to. I think that was super important to us.
I haven't heard that one yet, but.
Well, that's what the system I have and the system the prosecutor has on the Square. There's an app on your phone, you can see who's opened the door at any moment in time.
Because that's what we do for Ohio Department of Health with our
You can
vaccine. We
deactivate.
gotta prove who went in and,
Yeah,
it's a lot to put on anybody.
yeah, I get it. Now, I think we just want to all be talking the same terms, because silo means something to one person and not everyone. I think, Board of Elections may have the same challenge, so. Okay, so I'll make a motion to table the first.
Number 7.
Number 7.
Is there a second to table?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor of tabling number 7 to another ADP meeting, say aye.
All right.
Any
And Tim,
opposed?
and Tim, can you let us know when that's ready?
I'm gonna get on it right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we'll schedule it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, moving on to number 8. Approval of BOCC for the operation of the mission technology that has long been used by the Water Resources Department to operate the Geauga County water treatment plants. So again, I think we'd be in a place looking for sort of another presentation overview before we get into discussion.
So the mission system is what we use to monitor our pump stations, our lift stations, our water treatment facility. The only operational control that we have in there is to turn on our pumps in case of a fire emergency. If we had a high need of fire call, we can turn the pump on remotely. But for the most part, it's very similar to a security system. If we get a high alarm in a pump station, we'll get notified. It's web-based. We log in, and that's the access for it. So it monitors our lift stations, our water treatment, and our treatment plants for alarms, high alarm, low alarms. It's monitoring.
Questions? I guess,
Make a motion?
well, I mean, yeah, we can motion, but I have some questions.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All right, discussion, questions?
So this is used all over the county, right? I mean, that's,
It's used at all of our lift stations.
and how many different, where is the, it's all cloud-based, so there's no one location that you go to, so, but there is some kind of a login procedure, I'm assuming?
Correct.
And what is that procedure?
Currently, it's a password. You're logging. You're just like you're logging into any account.
Yeah, so it's
Login
using,
account. Currently, we are working with the company itself to see about two-factor authentication. Currently, my understanding is it is not there, so we're going to strong passwords.
that's what I heard. I heard it's not multi-factor and it's
Right.
not strong character.
Right. So
Is it, where is their cloud-based server? Where is it?
That I don't know the answer to, but I can give you the answer.
Yeah, because we would want to make sure it's onshore, it's not going overseas.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, somebody can hack and then turn on a valve and pump. And the concern I have with Mission is, it is a control system. It does turn things on.
Just pumps.
Yeah, well,
So, yeah,
okay.
just, so there's
That's a
right.
thing, and
So
that,
it would only be our wells.
yeah. So, I mean, that's of concern, because it's not a passive device. It doesn't just see if the pump is on, it could turn it on.
It has the ability to turn it on
Right.
remotely.
That's my concern with it. And so I would, do we have any information, did you guys get information about,
No.
they're like located in Texas, right? I mean, I did a little Googling on them, but, I mean, I'm assuming is it the company in Texas?
That I don't know I'm sorry, I don't have that answer, but I can get you that information.
Yeah.
So this is to allow the Board of Commissioners to operate this technology? Who's operating it now?
Water Resources, I'm assuming.
Yes,
So what'll be different?
we would still operate it.
So then does it fall under ADP then?
I think this is coming to ADP because it was never approved by ADP to be used.
So that's what this is doing.
Is that a right statement? Is that,
This has been, we've been using it, as mentioned, we've
Well,
been using it long term.
so
I think if the question is now. it's
why
being
now?
reviewed. Yeah, I don't understand, I don't know, it's from 2021, that the original request came up. Jerry, I'm gonna default that this went back, that the original request was reviewed by ADP.
You are correct, it was never previously approved by ADP.
okay. So the purchase or the operation was never approved by ADP?
Correct.
So normally, we would vet the purchase rather than the operation. The commissioners have a kind of they can buy without ADP approval. Operation is always under ADP approval. I guess the question is, I think, and there's going to be probably a difference of opinion with this, I think entities under the commissioners, they'll still have to get their IT and OT approved prior to purchase. So, I mean, I think this should be a two-step action. Request to purchase, which you've already done, but it's an after the fact, and then request to operate, if I understand correctly. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn once.
This would be ratifying.
It's
previous
like
purchase.
JFS, right? I mean, JFS is functionally under the commissioners. But when they have IT
Correct.
purchases, we still approve the purchase. It's not waived because it's under the commissioners. I think it's where the source of money is coming from determines who has authority. I think the law actually says the commissioners have to have it appropriated for that purpose, but the commissioners didn't. You guys bought it, right? Water Resources bought it?
Prior to me, but it's been in, prior to my position here at Water Resources, it's been in operation for years, so.
So I mean, I'd like to see these other questions answered. I mean, can you get us, is there somebody?
I can get whatever, I'll find any information you need.
I think, again, we come back to looking for what backs up the motion item here. What's the technology overview? What's the, I don't want to say technical specs because it's a bunch of different pieces as far as I know, but then also security issues. Who's the administrator right now for the mission stuff? I mean, obviously Joe Burley doesn't work for water anymore.
Correct.
And it sounds like maybe Mike Kersinger is on leave at the moment. So who's even operating? Who even has administrative access to manage mission at the moment?
The department, we still have a department access. I've been taking that role in Mike's leave.
So like a general department access?
Well, everybody has an email, like a login account, so they can log in, that has their own access with restrictions. There's only one or two that can have actual pump control. So.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, I think we're in the same spot. We're looking for some kind of an overview of what the mission technology is. A schematic, where's it at? Like a schema, where's it at in the county? What does it touch on? What does it do?
I mean, what are the risks? That's probably what we're evaluating. Risks to the network, risks, to somebody, a nefarious party getting access. I guess I would just look for, here's the product, here's its mechanism of login, here's the credential requirements. We are following a pattern of this kind of passwording scheme. You don't have to give us the password, obviously, but I would like to know that it's not, hello. And
Right.
I mean, we want something that you should have a process and a procedure for that. And I'm assuming you guys have a password policy within the department. That should be strong. It should be passed and vetted to make sure that it doesn't put the county's network at any greater risk than it would be with any other user on it.
And that's what we've been talking with the OT Wednesday morning meetings that we've been having the last couple of weeks with your department.
Yeah, I guess there's one tomorrow, right, Alan?
Yes.
So has Mission been part of that conversation?
Very little at this point.
So,
Just very high level.
We started into it last meeting.
so could you lead getting this data?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So just so I'm clear, is it working now? Is it?
I don't know.
Systems in operation currently, yes.
And how long is it, has it been, is this something new or is this?
I don't know when the system was actually purchased, and Jerry, I don't know if you have.
I don't remember exactly when, and if I had to guess, I'd say like early 2000s.
When?
Early 2000s.
Okay.
I'm sorry, late 2000s, I started 2006.
Okay.
After I was here.
And so just so I understand, the reason why we're bringing this today is because in the past, ADP or Water Resources was not coming to ADP for these approvals, and now they are. And so you're just trying to get this approved then? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, to bring it up to the requirements.
Okay.
and get the approval
But
of ADP.
what I'm hearing is ADP doesn't have enough information or hasn't vetted it or looked at it in depth yet.
Right, we can provide additional information.
So
Yeah, I think, Tim,
I'd like to rescind my motion then and move to table this as well. until I'd like to make a motion to table this motion until we get clarification on this as well, and that's provided.
Okay.
In that clarification, it would be very helpful to know if this is an annual contract, a multi-year contract, and a copy of the contract.
Good. Can do.
Vote to rescind that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm
Any
confused.
separate motions to rescind that? I'm asking you.
Yes.
Yes.
So
So
Tim made that motion.
is there a second to rescind?
Second.
We have a second to rescind that.
Call the question.
All in favor of rescinding the original motion for number 8?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright. Any opposed? All right, so that's rescinded. So now Commissioner Lennon has an active motion to table number 8. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Good.
We have a second. Okay, we'll call for a vote then to table agenda item number 8. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, number 8 is tabled. Thank you.
How soon, Nick, can we get with Mission? Tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, moving on. Number 9 is the approval of the updated ADP price list. Just as a brief overview, we have updated and added Windstream desktop soft phone licenses. We have added over-ear headsets. We've added gatekeeper replacement tokens, computer hard drive destruction, and memory destruction.
SharePoint.
Yeah, and then different varying degrees of SharePoint storage. We've had other individuals purchasing some of the SharePoint storage, for instance, but on their own, but this allows ADP to purchase that and then sell those services accordingly.
Motion to approve the amended price list.
So we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Is there any discussion on the ADP price list? Seeing that there is no discussion, we will look for a vote to approve item number 9. So say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion stands approved. Number 10 is a transit discussion and technology approval. I will again turn this over to Joanna. If you could give us a quick, brief overview before we get into a discussion on the approvals that you're looking for with regard to the technology. I have that somewhere, the surfaces and workstations and whatnot.
Yes, we're trying to do replacement of 4 desktops and add a laptop, tablet for the mechanic so that he can get schematics of things on the bus so that he's able to actually carry it on instead of having to print stuff off and go back and get it. So the 1 is an addition, the 4 are just replacements that are from 2016 and 1 to 2019 for an update.
So, question I had, there, and maybe Laura, you could address this. All of these computers are going to be considered assets of transit, correct? That would be your understanding? Is it part of the asset transfer
Yes.
at the end of June?
I obviously don't have the agreement with me, but I would
Yes,
assume
yes,
that
it
would be
says
the
all
case
assets
because
will be an asset.
Okay,
I
so,
would assume that would be included.
so the problem that I foresee with this is we image with an ADP license image. So the operating system, the applications, the endpoint protection.
Okay, can I interrupt just 1 second? I have a grant to purchase these, so I just want to purchase them. We're not going to actually license or do anything through actually the county. It'll all take effect July 1st, but I need to spend the money that I have now through the grant so that I can get them. So I want to just purchase them. I don't actually want to put
So
these.
they're not going to hang on, they're not going to hang on the network till
They're not gonna
after
go on
you're
there
gone.
at all,
Oh,
and so we
okay,
switched
so
over.
this is a no-brainer.
Yeah,
So it's basically a hardware purchase with
I'm just trying
no,
to purchase the hardware currently.
Got it.
And then once we get switched over, then we'll get them onto the network.
okay, I'll so move.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on that? It's really good technology. The workstations are the top of the line, so those will last you for a long time, as you call. All in favor of approving agenda item number 10, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion stands approved. Number 11 is the approval of Transit Networking Technologies Erie. Jen, if you could give us sort of an overview. I don't know what that is.
That, I believe, is the actual hardware.
That's the specific hardware.
Networking technologies, correct.
Okay.
Oh, so what was
So
the-
that's 10 and 11 are
We've
the...
got 10 and
10 and
11.
11 are together.
Excellent.
Getting the computers.
My apologies, we will move on then.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion was for 10 and 11.
Yeah, there's only one action though.
Correct, one action. Thank you. All right, number 12 is gatekeeper MFA and long passphrase.
So we are, we're reaching, I think, a point in time where we're going to need to invoke some requirements of long passwords and multi-factor authentication. Is Velta here?
Velta's here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Velta, I missed it. You know, we've got, and we brought the courts in because they've been good partners. I know the judges and I have met several times. Velta has been very good at cooperating with, as our standards for security increase, Velta has been very cooperative and agreeing to pursue that task for the courts as well. We kind of follow the lead of Board of Elections. Board of Elections sets the bar, in my opinion, because the Secretary of State determines their level of security, which tends to be greater than typical government because of the election laws and the protection of election laws. And we've kind of followed that as our standard. It's a gold standard. We do have some minor resistance from within certain pockets of varying departments, some of which we're going to have to make a determination, what do we do going forward? You know, I view password protection as being, you know, the most significant baseline chain of security. There's no easier way of breaching a device than getting through passwords, especially if they're not proper, if they're not full length and preferably multi-factor. That being said, you know, you can't force somebody to do something, right? You can't put a gun to their head, but you have to protect the weakest link in the chain. That weak link is going to be the one that causes all of us to have aggravation. So I guess, you know, from your perspective, you know, what's the court's view on the password requirements and multi-factor, gatekeeper, those kind of things? What is your take on that?
Well, I cannot speak for the elected officials, but I can tell you that 3 out of the 4 elected officials that Court IT services, which is the clerk of courts and the 2 general division judges, are very much on board with this, and we are finishing up the deployment of the gatekeeper and 25-character passwords at the main courthouse. However, the 4th one, we can only make recommendations and, you know, make them aware of the importance for the entire network of compliance, but we, like you said, we can't force them to do anything.
So, but your Court IT services them as well, right?
Yes.
So how are we going to deal with, I guess, a
Are they saying no right now?
three-quarter?
I can't speak for the elected officials.
Is the probate and juvenile court making the transition to 25-character passwords and MFA?
As far as I know, the 25-character password policy has been pushed from ADP.
Correct.
And, you know, Court IT has no control of that. So as far as gatekeeper, we are, like I said, finishing up at the courthouse, and to my knowledge, there's not a desire to implement those. However, I have emailed the judge just to confirm and have not heard a response.
Yeah, we're not trying to put you on the spot. We're just trying to figure out how close are we to the goal. You know, are we?
Right.
The policy
Appears
has been
to-
pushed, but the 25 characters won't go into effect until reset passwords and whatnot.
Right.
So,
So it could be a while because the new expiration is 1 year.
yep.
And we can force expiration, right?
Does
You
he,
can.
is there a separate network for the court? Do they have their own?
No, we are on the county network. All the courts are on the county
Okay,
network.
okay.
A separate but connected problem is email.
Right, and again, same position with that we're finishing up at the main courthouse with the clerk of courts and 2 general division judges. We're down to just a few accounts left, or we're working with ADP on getting those finished up. And to my knowledge, that's
So
where.
what is court IT doing now then?
About,
I mean, just in general. I mean, it's separately funded. I mean, is it doing the same type of thing as ADP is doing? Like, do you have your own servers and your own cloud services and all that type of stuff?
we work closely with ADP.
I mean, just recently that started, but in the past, was it separate?
No,
No.
our servers are housed with ADP.
Okay.
And I think the relationship between Court IT and ADP has, we're really working together with the security efforts and,
Right.
getting things up to date. And it's important. Everybody agrees that it's important, and we're working toward that same goal. Court IT is anyhow.
Okay.
So the remainder then on exchange is will be when you're done, just juvie probate court addresses, correct? And then we've got just 2 or 3 in the county.
County entities.
So our target, just so everybody knows, we're planning on shutting down the exchange server in July.
Okay.
And that's going to be a problem, because you have people that aren't moving to 365.
Right.
Well, they're not going to have email after that point in time, and then the top of the roof's going to blow off. But you can't it's falling out of life. Its life expectancy is, we're watching it tick away.
Court IT is well aware of that.
Yeah.
And is very much on board with migrating to Microsoft 365.
Okay.
So prior, the exchange was for the courts, was that separate or was that under county?
Under the county.
It was, okay.
And it was, probate juvenile still is, and
Still is.
everybody else still was prior to our migration to M365.
On exchange, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to need to deal with that we've got a month and a half, but July's coming quickly. So there's no action item on this, Frank?
I think it was just appropriate to have an update on that situation,
Okay.
so that on July 30th, we don't meet. So,
We're what percentage to our goal?
can you give me an idea, Corey?
80 to 90?
Like total, like where we're at in terms of county M365 migration, now adding water,
Okay, do you want to include townships and everything?
just county entities right now.
Just
Townships
county
are last.
entities right now. The last one we have left is Unicourt Maintenance and Sheriff.
And DES, correct?
And DES, yes.
The sheriff is in process.
Sheriff is in process, Unicort's in process, and then DES is the last outstanding one.
And maintenance, do they?
Oh, and maintenance. Maintenance is aware of this. They haven't gotten the quotes and stuff yet.
How many mailboxes are we talking? Dozens, hundreds?
I would say over 100, just simply because the sheriff's office and the safety center.
Okay.
There's a lot of users there.
So we're about 3/4 of the way, I would anticipate.
Okay.
If I had a percentage on 75 to 80%.
Okay, we got to pick it up because we're running out of time. Okay. Let's move on.
Number 13 is the 470 Center Street network switching upgrades. I will give a very brief one, then turn it over to Andy. But the total valuation on the switches on this is under $25,000, which means it can be approved prior to board meeting and ratified by the board afterward. However, this is an issue I think the board needs to be aware of. We're looking at investing in new technology for 470 to keep it functional, because all the switches there are now end of life. So I think that there was a point in the past where it was, the ADP board was told not to spend any more money at 470. Now we're looking at about a $20,000 investment in the 470. Not sure for how long, But I think everybody at least needs to be up to speed on that and whether or not we're comfortable doing that. But the switching, and Andy, if you want to just give a brief overview, the switching infrastructure there through the buildings is end of support.
Yeah, because you've got both sides being used still, it requires a certain amount of switches to be maintained. And it's Board of Elections, so I can't put in a cheap switch. It's got to be pretty stable and redundant power and things like that, so.
So who are we looking at is affected at 470 right now?
So this is for Board of Elections. Building 5 has CASA, and then we've got the Department on Aging using quite a bit of Building 8.
You have maintenance
Maintenance has a few people possibly.
Water still has its infrastructure there.
and water.
They're not connected to this now.
Okay.
We did disconnect that.
Okay, good.
Oh, so they're no longer connected to the backbone?
Correct.
At 470?
They're connected to the VPN now.
Okay.
Does this capital equipment have a life beyond 470?
Well, it's a good question. Depends.
It depends,
Their
right?
size, I mean, the configuration size is kind of customed because you buy these in sizes. It can be used elsewhere, probably at townships rather
We
than.
would try to reallocate those resources to another department or group, once they weren't needed at 470.
Right.
But it's likely that they could be used somewhere.
So, Michelle, do you guys, what's your anticipation for how long a stay you're gonna have at 470?
Well, it depends on whether we have an August election, which we will find out tomorrow.
Okay. So I should call you
And the
tomorrow?
rest, I really am not free at this point to speak.
Yeah, okay,
It'll just be day by day at this point.
okay. Because the cost is being spread out over the people that are there, correct?
That's most likely what we'll have to do.
All right, well, just want everybody to know we're putting money back into a place. Okay, is there any action to take on that?
I think the board should
Should,
make it.
even though it's under the limit?
I think so.
Also moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve the 470 network switch upgrades. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. I think the discussion's been had, but is there any additional discussion? All right.
If we have an August election, it'd be critical that we have it.
All in favor of approving agenda item number 13, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion stands. Number 14 is the termination of the agreement pursuant to revised code 307-842 with the Geauga County Auditor.
So, in January of this year, I proposed an agreement where I separated from ADP because of lack of funding for ADP. I'm happy to report that funding has been restored. So pursuant to item 7 on my agreement, it nullifies that action. So I'm just letting the board know that my separation from ADP as auditor is nullified. So I'm back under ADP. So I don't, just for the record, it was automatic when the funding recurred.
Yeah, I don't think we have a motion or any action on that. I think it's noted here, it's acknowledged in the minutes, and that is the process going forward now. Okay, any discussion on that? All right, agenda item number 15 is to clean up some outstanding regular business. The three items are, the three main items that I have, and obviously any board members are welcome to add regular business to there. But we have a Spectrum internet connection to the office building. We have the Board of DDs who would like to discuss something, and then Roger Peterson from the Department of Emergency Services as well. So number one, we'll start with the Spectrum piece. Andy, if you can give us just a quick overview of what we're looking at with Spectrum. I know that you'd worked with Jerry Morgan a little bit ago. He signed off on the DAS approval for that, but now we're at the board point because of the evaluation.
Yeah, so we're putting up there a quote, revised quote for services at this building. It's a lower latency or a quicker connection for the internet, which should help out. We've got a couple of applications that would benefit from that. New World is housed up at the square, some things like that. So this connection is a little more robust, and it's the same provider that we have at the annex. And kind of having the same provider has some benefits as well, because you're not traversing around the internet so much with your data when you're talking between your branches.
So I don't have it on my agenda here, but that was fiber, right?
Yes.
That was like, so that'll be a lot faster.
Yes, it'll
Yeah.
be, yes. And then the goal would be to reallocate some of the windstream that we're using here for another location.
So the Spectrum circuit is a 60-month circuit. And they would move on that within, do you have an idea of a time period?
Once the order's processed, I would say 30 days.
Okay.
Fiber's already in the building, so.
All right. Because Adrian is hitting me up hard for faster NWS connection, so.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion, is there a second? Second.
How will that affect the connection with AT&T for the state and the current?
We'll just have to give them a new IP address,
Okay. So
if they're not off by then.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we have a motion, we have a second, we have some discussion. Is there any other discussion on the Spectrum connection?
Just real quick, how much was that again?
66,000.
Yeah, so it is $1,050 a month, so $63,000 over the 60-month period. There's a one-time $250 installation fee, and then static IPs are $50 a month, so that's $3,000 in charges. The total is $66,250.
Okay, and
For
that'll come out of ADP's budget?
For the 60-month period, yes.
You got a second?
Yeah, we're looking for any other questions, comments, discussion. All right, all in favor of approving the Spectrum contract, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Spectrum is approved, thank you. The second one is the Developmental Disabilities Micro Advantage. It's a Ubiquity camera system. I think they are present. Yes. If you would like to sort of give an overall presentation on the technology you're looking at for approval, it's the camera system upgrade.
Yes, so our current system is over 10 years old at the moment, and we have only one interior view camera. So we just would like to expand our interior coverage, and we've had a few recent incidents lately that we feel like that would be beneficial for us. So we're just looking to upgrade, and the system allows for us to have broader views.
I'm curious, is there a reason that Ubiquity is the choice for cameras here versus anything else?
So we looked at 3 different quotes from different vendors, so we went with the lowest and best option.
Who are the other vendors you looked at?
Citywide and S3.
Okay.
And do you know what the hardware was on those cameras?
Give me one moment.
Thank you.
And this is a server-based camera system, correct? I mean, you're using a NVR?
Correct.
Yeah.
NVR on 10.
Yep, got it.
Let me look here.
I mean, for them, maybe. I don't know. I mean, from a security perspective, it's worse. Or it's better because it's localized. But, you know, the cameras are not the optimal. I mean, they're Chinese-based. Not fully, but there's Chinese parts.
So the additional quote that we had from Citywide was Hanwha cameras.
Yeah.
That's not American.
This is definitely better.
Yeah.
And then, let me pull up the additional quote here. Trying to find the name brand of the other ones here on this quote. It's quite extensive.
federal government.
We felt comfortable, and in addition to, we also felt comfortable with this quote because they were all NDAA compliant equipment.
So that was the next question.
That's the question.
Then-
That's the magic word. Do you have a certificate that says that? Can you provide us?
We can talk to the vendor and see if we can obtain one for
If
you.
you get us-
So we did ask that question.
If you get us
So
that
we did-
certificate, it answers all of our questions, because that means the
Okay.
feds have approved it for use, and that's the most
Okay.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate thing. Pretty much every camera we purchase now has Chinese parts in it, but obviously if you're aware of the NDAA, as long as the essential components aren't, they're located in countries that
Yeah.
part of the Big Five are fairly safe, then it's not such an issue. So if you're telling us that's the case, then I have no problem with the technology.
Yeah, we did do that due diligence and ask that question.
I guess I'm just
before
glad with
selecting
that.
one.
Yeah.
I mean, the preference would be to have this cloud-based, but I get it. You guys are trying to, you want quicker retrieval and you want it to be standalone. Are you hanging this on the network, or are you just going to run it standalone?
Standalone.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
With a second, all in favor of approving the Micro Advantage purchase from the developmental disabilities?
Subject to getting the NDAA.
Subject to receiving the NDAA certification for the Ubiquity cameras. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion stands approved. We'll look for that sheet certification within the next day or so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the last item I have under regular business is sort of a DES overview of just an overall complete update to the Department of Emergency Services infrastructure. So Roger, if you want to kind of give what you're looking at there, what the plan is.
What are you looking for, I guess?
So I think kind of what we had talked about the Microsoft 365 migration.
Okay.
I think we got to a place where there were some issues, you wanted to roll it back. Obviously, we're not going to be using Exchange going forward, but then you kind of came forward with another plan. So I think if we could just figure out what that is here and then
Let
move
me
forward.
touch base on the, I know that you had said that DES was not part of the, whatever that was with Office 365. We went to Office 365 on the 16th. We've had like a complete gridlock of our computers for some reason. On the 29th, I had requested a rollback to Exchange. So now I've got 3 computers that are working, and my computer, I don't have email for the last 3 days. I can't get on anything that's Microsoft Word, anything like that. So that's like, Frank, you sent me the email yesterday, so I called you to say, hey, I got it, I just can't reply to you.
Yeah, I got your voicemail.
So we've had a lot of issues with 365. I don't know why. I'm not an IT guy. So, but what I'm looking at DES, my operations room had about 30 thin clients. They're still on Windows 7. When I became director, my understanding was the thought of the thin clients was we didn't have 30 computers that we would have to power on every 2 weeks and do updates, that IT would, this mothership computer would then push updates out to these thin clients. Evidently, the thin clients can no longer be updated. So we are looking at going to laptops, standalone laptops, so if I have to move my EOC, we take the laptop and we go. We were using an internal system called Storm Chaser, which was built by IT. I was told verbally that Storm Chaser is going away, find something different. So I think I found something. There's going to be obviously cost to it. It's going to be web-based. So we also had a shared drive in our EOC so that all these computers could share documents. So what it looks like is this potential new software, hardware, I don't know what I'm not an IT guy. I deal with emergencies and put fires out. So what I understand is this program that's cloud-based also shares the documents. So now we would no longer need access to the shared drive.
You're referencing Web EOC?
Potentially.
Yes.
Web EOC, since we lost Storm Chaser, Web EOC is going to be about $15,000 a year annually. And that's going to be a huge hit to us. I'm looking at other options, but when Storm Chaser went away, I don't know what else to do at this point with that. Because what we used Storm Chaser for was a data collection, and then when FEMA comes out, we hand them a thumb drive, they have everything. So without Storm Chaser, I've got to hand them a ream of paper.
of copies. So what I'm looking at doing, I briefly communicated with Frank, was if we go with the standalone laptops, if we go with this web EOC or whatever we choose with, we will no longer need the shared drive. We would not need an independent server, which I believe is EMA VDI.
It's the domain.
The domain.
Yeah.
So we would no longer need the EMA VDI domain, which potentially might be why we're having so many issues with the Microsoft 365.
So I'll turn, Corey, if you could just jump in real quickly here. I think Roger's on point with that. Is that correct? The split domain issue or whatever's going on over there?
So yeah, the split domain issue was what was the cause of a lot of that gridlock as you described it over there, and it's just because when you have the split domain and we install 365 with our ADP license and stuff, as Chuck spoke to earlier during the transit section, it basically tries to communicate back to servers that are on our domain, which is why you guys were getting that pop-up box and it was disconnecting and stuff. And we knew the domain consolidation would be the easiest solution to that. And then when we rolled back, it kept trying to communicate with that stuff. We put it back on the old apps too. And honestly, then it threw a really weird error that I haven't seen before with the unlicensed product for you where you haven't been able to send emails here. But I do believe I do have a fix for that if we can implement that at some point. I just know we've been in a holding pattern on that.
I don't know why we were in a holding pattern. I called help desk the last 2 mornings in a row asking what's going on with my email. But anyway, when the suggestion was made about migrating over to the GIS server, I said, well, I'm not sold that that's the problem because I'm on EMA VDI and my 365 is working. These other 3 guys are not. So to me, that didn't make any sense, and that's why I said, we got to figure this out before we just start pulling answers or attempting answers, because my office, we were without communication for days through email. Now my guys have email, and now I don't. So I guess that's karma. So is that what you're looking for?
Well, we've got to get you off of Exchange. I mean, the clock is ticking. We've got to get you off those Windows 7 machines. They are giant welcome mats for everybody that wants to attack a system.
And I'm not debating that at all.
So,
I just need to be able to move on to a system that works.
I understand. The problem we're seeing with certain entities who are migrating from Exchange to Office 365, depending on their environment, especially with domain controllers, it can be easy and it can be an absolute nightmare. The prosecutor's office took us the better part of a month to convert. But you have to just plow through it. Others, it was a day and we were done with everybody. It's a hit or miss based on how the domain controller is set up, if anybody's ever tried a root instance of a conversion to 365, it can complicate things. So hesitating is the worst thing we can do right now. We've got to put our foot to the floor and get through this problem.
I'm not hesitating, and I'm willing to plow. I just have to have something that works that I can plow with.
Okay, so we've got to get back on his 365 implementation and get him through it. Let's not go backward and put him back on Exchange. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Because in a month, we're going to be facing it all over again.
Do we need to migrate the domain prior to that? Yes, right?
So let's just do that.
We can do it either way. Migrating to the domain first isn't an option we've used in our other
Yeah, but I'm feeling like that's the issue.
migrations, but I feel like if we start with that, it may eliminate a lot of these issues.
So when we did the engineer, when we did health, we did it the other way around and it was fine. But then when we did the prosecutor, that was a real headache.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And water resources, we had the same problem with the domain.
the domain.
Well, we had a
we're
domain
still
problem.
doing, that's still a bit
So
headache.
can you guys get together with him after this meeting and let's get back moving on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we start with the domain migration and then we do the 365 migration and then that pretty much.
With the domain migration, will my shared files follow?
Correct, yes, they will.
And all of my printers and everything will?
Well, they'll have to redo all that.
It all has to be redone.
It all has to be redone.
Remapped.
It's not you can't kind of convert. You've got to go all out.
Chuck, I'm not saying kind of convert.
We
We tried to convert. We honestly did.
Yeah.
We scheduled an appointment. They came out. We converted.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
I found that the biggest problem people have is when they get into uncharted waters, they either stop or want to go back, and that's a formula for disaster.
We
We've
had
got to
an
just
email
get
for almost a
forward.
week.
I wasn't hesitating. I gave them almost a week before I said,
Yeah.
please do something. So I'm willing to work. I think I've been very transparent and polite and professional through emails and everything. I'm not digging my heels in. I just need something that works.
Okay, well, let's just get them back on it and get this conversion done.
Cool. Thanks, Roger.
Okay.
Any other regular business to discuss? Okay.
You got public
Seeing that
comment.
there's no other regular business, is there any public comment from anybody here or virtually? Any public comment?
Or questions, or?
Shelley Lewis,
If questions are allowed, I have two.
of course.
Shelley Lewis with Legal Lawyers.
Thank you.
I would appreciate some clarity on the question of whether ADP has authority over the courts. And I don't expect an answer here.
Well, I can tell you the history that I understand. So the courts and ADP have had a casual relationship for years and years and years. When I first started 5 years ago, I met with Judge Burt, and he said it's going to be a cooperative relationship. Courts have the ability of separation. They're not bound, different than other county offices. With that exercise, though, comes cost, right? And so Judge Burt, in particular, was very sensitive to, it's in all of our best interest that we cooperate, because we save money and we have to give and take. So that's been our practice with the courts, and it's continued on, even through Judge Burt's transition and with Velta coming aboard after they had a changing of the guard at the IT level. So I think it's a completely unique scenario compared to other entities in the county. And hard authority? No, there has to be a willingness for both sides to want to cooperate for the benefit of cost to the taxpayer. And as long as our security is kept at a consistent level, I think we're all on the same page. Where we probably differ is funding of certain initiatives. So moving to a cloud, courts have to justify their funding just like ADP does, just like every department does. They have a little more, I guess, leverage because they can move or not move based on their discussions internally, and we can't impose them to go to a zero-based server, for example. So it's just different than other entities. So I can't directly answer whether there's a legal basis for that, but that's the practice that we performed.
Well, it sounds like there's not a statutory authority, unlike your statutory authority over.
Yeah, I think the best term that I've heard used by people that I've talked to is they're quasi-county. They're not full county. They're county, but they're not. So it's a quasi-county entity. The statute says county entities. They don't mention quasi.
But when they're on the county network.
But when we're on the county network, we all have to play by the rules.
Yeah.
That's kind of what our understanding.
So they go through the approval process and all of this, as long as they're on the county network, if they choose to go off on their own.
Yep.
We don't think there's anything in the law that says they can't.
And both Judge Paschke and Judge Andre have been very open and honest and transparent with us, saying, we want to do what you believe is the right thing to do for security.
Yeah.
But we have our own rules too that we have to make sure we fulfill. And so we've been, I think the relationship has been excellent.
And my second question, am I permitted to ask a question to anyone on the board?
No, you can do anything you want.
Okay.
Whether they answer or not is another matter.
My question is for Mr. Lemon. I think it would be helpful for the public to have an understanding of why it's so important to the Commissioner's office to maintain control over the access control responsibility.
Well, I think it's important for each independent elected official to have that ability, just as everybody has their concerns. The commissioners, by higher revised code, have been tasked to do certain things statutorily as well when it comes to the operation of county buildings. So, I think that's a component of it, just as the hard keys were. But it's no different than the courts, the auditor, the treasurer. They want to have the ability to control the prosecutor, who's coming in and out of their offices.
But you feel
Thank
you
you.
have a responsibility
Yeah.
to maintain the control. Is that?
Control of what?
The access to the server. You feel that the commissioners have a responsibility?
Well, I think for everybody under our hiring authority, yes. I do. Yeah.
Any other public comment? Anyone virtually? Okay. Seeing that there is no other public comment, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you.